Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice and to My Choice Tuesday. For a long time, I have been wanting to return to Einar Selvik. I first heard him perform with Wardruna. It was probably almost a year ago now, and they were singing Helvegen with Aurora. I was intrigued not only by the great quality of his voice, but also by his background. He started off as a drummer in a black metal band and then became the lead singer of Wardruna and has gone on to do all kinds of really awesome projects that include composition and voiceover. He's worked on Assassin's Creed Valhalla and also has worked on some more TV shows as well. So we're going to be looking at Vikings Suite today, which was co-composed by Trevor Morris and Einar Selvik. This, of course, is in relation to the TV series Vikings 2, and it was at the Krakow Film Music Festival in 2015. Trevor Morris is an incredible Canadian composer. He's worked on a bunch of other things as well, like Dragon Age Inquisition, and he's kind of a big deal. So it's exciting to see that Einar worked with him. And then they're joined by Tina Guo, who is an amazing cellist. So if you put this all together, you have Tina Guo, who is Asian American, and you have Einar, who is Norwegian, and Trevor Morris, who is Canadian. And then you have the Krakow Symphony and a Polish choir. So it's just a huge array of nationalities making music about Vikings. I think it's going to be awesome. Let's get to it. This is delightful to listen to. I love the way that his vocal style, vocal production really, to me, it sounds slightly classical in nature and folk. You've got sort of these two sides. I think it would fall squarely within folk, but it's like folk that has a classical tilt, essentially. And that's because I hear so much body in the sound. It sounds like he's able to really produce quite a bit of power, has a fluidity in the vibrato as well. I hear some warmth. Sounds like maybe like a narrower epiglottic closure there as well. And I think that it's just such a beautiful legato sound with some really fun folk ornaments too. And it's highlighted by the simplicity of this accompaniment. So he's playing the toggle harpa here, and I like the way it's just a very simple pattern, and it changes a tiny bit here and there, but then comes back to that simple pattern, and it's beautiful, just beautiful, exquisite. It lets his voice shine. You don't really need anything extra on his voice because it feels so authentic and deep all on its own. Let's go back to the beginning. That's gorgeous. He also has really his appearance is awesome. He's definitely a person I would want to play Dungeons and Dragons with. Yeah, he would make a great bard. But I'm interested also in the amount of closure in his mouth. It is strikingly similar to Chris Cornell, which we just did another video of. And he's really keeping it pretty closed, and you can hear that there's some soft palate drop as well. Check that out. Yeah, look at, he's singing through hardly any opening in his mouth at all. You can hear a lot of it's coming through his nose. The way he went up to that note reminds me of a certain kind of tenor, a Helden tenor in opera. There's a really low support, it sounds like, and it even had like a tiny bit of hook into it. It was cool. I have seen this before, but it is very rare. I'm trying to remember where I've seen it. It was definitely in some sort of more modern composition. This is so cool. When I first heard that percussion start, I was trying to place it. I was like, what kind of drum is that? And then to see them zoom in on the orchestra and see that this percussion is coming from the orchestral members using their hands against their instruments. That's really cool. Also because that's going to create different kinds of percussive sounds depending on the instrument. You know, if you have a smaller instrument, it's going to have less boom in it, and the bigger one would have a little bit more boom or depth in that sound. What a cool, and also it feels like it goes within this older style of music, right? It feels like it's more acoustic in nature and using our bodies to create more kinds of sounds. I love it. Oh, let's go back a little. The build on this is amazing, and the mixing of it is amazing too. It feels like it started out quieter, his voice is more present, his voice is sort of fading away into the background. I'm going to go back a little bit because I think this is masterful. I wonder if they did any mixing in post, or if this is just mixed by the musicians themselves and their varying of dynamics. I don't know. I love it though. And it is accented by drums as well. Whoa. Oh, that was cool. Oh man. And I loved her offset there. It really drew attention to it. It had a great, and I like the way it felt like it cut off a bunch of sound. So you can tell that what she's about to do is going to be very, very important. I feel giddy by the energy build in this. It's amazing. I like the way they're going back and forth between a half step here. It is building so much tension, and in all of the different instruments in here, you hear building of tension. It's not just the pitch choice that's happening, but in the way that he's leaning into some harsh vocals, right? I think is he doing fry or is he doing false? I'm not sure which one he's doing. He's definitely leaning into the harsher side of vocals. It sounds relaxed and open, doesn't sound damaging at all in any way to me. Even the strings, as they're going back really fast, back and forth really fast on the strings, that's building up additional tension as well. And you hear the brass hammering into this one low note on the bottom. It is just glorious, glorious, glorious. Oh, and they're even using a special kind of mute as well, which makes you feel like something dreadful is about to happen. Those slides are great. There are so many amazing sounds and use of extended technique in here. This is just brilliant composition, and I love the execution and the fierceness of it in every single member. I love the way it sounds like he's breathing in through his nose, and then it's like a growl out, just like a rumble of the false vocal folds or vestibular folds, if you want to go in that direction. And the choir also has these accenting breaths as well. I love the use of breath in all kinds of music. It is something we can immediately associate with an activity or an emotion. Breath is like a piece of life, and I love the way that they're using it here. Also, those descending slides they created so much tension as well. And again, that feeling of doom. I am loving this. Loving it. He's even got like different sections of the choir and different kinds of breathing. It's beautiful. It's like vocal percussion, if you will. Very Carmina Burana. This is intense. It's electrifying. I felt goosebumps come up. He's singing, and a lot of the choir right now are singing in their full voice. They're really actually belting this part, and they're belting it with a really wide and open sound. A lot of times when you hear belting done in pop music or musical theater, it tends to get a little bit more narrow right up here in the placement. This has got a lot more body in the sound, which makes it feel a little bit more folkish. It definitely can pull from a lot of different traditions in folk music and see that style of singing. It's fascinating and wonderful. I love the way he's also adding some growls off when he adds that texture when Einar adds that texture, it pulls his voice out of that fold a little bit, so you know that it's his voice there and not another member of the choir. Okay, is that let's go back a little bit. Oh, also when he does the break. So the break is like when you would almost reiterate that particular register. And when he leans into that, it also splits his voice and shows that it's different from the choir's. That was beautiful. I wanted to stop it right before then to talk a little bit about the lyrics. I really tried to find some translation of these lyrics at this point. Understand it's probably from the Poetic Edda, and it's about the creation of the world essentially up until now. It's very interesting though. We even talked with a bunch of our patrons about the sourcing of this material, and it looks like it's kind of a mixture of a few different things. And one of them is talking about creation, and one of them is like about the Valkyries later. So there's a whole variety of things that are happening in here, which makes sense because it's like a suite of things that are happening. Let's go back and hear this amazing entrance by him again. I just couldn't stop it before. Beautiful control of that dynamic, a little bit of vibrato in the end. And it's very interesting. To start that sound, I think he would have needed a lot of air pressure underneath that had essentially some contradictory motion. So if the air pressure is pushing up the larynx, and then there's some contradictory motion from some different muscles helping to stabilize it here. And it was beautiful to hear how he had such control of the dynamics at the end, which would be a lot of control of that air pressure usage as well. So one more time. Oh, back. Even a little slide at the end. Really cool. The vowels that he's choosing are also fascinating because I'm hearing a lot of mixed vowels. So you would think of a pure vowel as like there's e, a, o, u. Those are all pure vowels. Some people even call them Italian vowels because you see those vowels predominantly in Italian. And then in other languages, we get more mixed vowels like umlauted u. And he's singing on this u sound, which is a mixture of u and e, a bunch in here. But then he just started making sounds that were all between other kinds of vowels and playing with the sounds. It sounds almost like moaning. It feels very, what's the word? Primitive. It feels primitive in the way that he's choosing different sounds. Like he's just looking for a sensation in the mouth and not at all thinking about the vowel, or maybe just thinking about how that sensation relates to an emotion. It's really cool and fascinating. And I wish I could go down the psychology that's behind all of that as well. It's really cool. Let's go back a little bit. Love these sounds. There's the mix on the switch. Well, we're going to go back and catch that again. I just have to say, this sounds so much to me like it's echoing parts of Stravinsky Rite of Spring. There's something in here, again, at that primitive essence. And then I've heard lots of bits of Carmina Burana as well. I love the way that this is all woven together. Both of those are sometimes described as primitive, and you get an essence. Something about it just feels Viking. And I think that's the addition of Einar's voice. It's fantastic. And that folk element that's added to it. It's like you get primitive and folk together and this element that feels Viking. It's beautiful and fascinating. I love the way that they've done this. Wow, amazing. Wow. This applause is great. Everything about that performance was extraordinary. I just loved the intensity of it. It really was electrifying. I'd seen that in description of it somewhere, and I just completely concur. It felt like I was being zapped with energy, with different kinds of sound energy. I love the way it was composed and the way it made use of so many unique sounds. Really, really cool. I love Einar's vocals in this. It's fascinating to hear him sing in this other style that I would love to know so much more about as well. I like the ornamentations, the use of different registers and pushing into different areas, and the idea of keeping it wide and full as you go up instead of narrowing it as you would belt in a different style. It was great to hear how he utilized his voice. And I also just love the quality of it. I feel that he's got such a full sound available and a huge dynamic range available, and he's able to go into both clean and harsh vocals. It's fascinating. And through all of that, you hear so much emotion being communicated, and I don't even know what the words were, but I feel like I just went on an epic, epic journey. It was brilliantly done. Fantastic. And of course, Tina Guo was extraordinary. We didn't even talk much about her, but she's not only a fantastic player, but a brilliant performer. I love the way she continues to bring a presence to it beyond just playing the notes. That's beautiful. And I thought, of course, the conducting was awesome. It was so cool to see all of these musicians come together and bring this really epic piece to life. Wow. So I wanted to shout out to all of you who recommended this way back when. Thank you very much. It was recommended and it's taken a while to come about, but just know sometimes if you make a recommendation that's way back when, I have it on a list and I might be dying to get to it and just not have had the chance to yet. This was exhilarating and wonderful, and thank you so much for that recommendation. You can keep making recommendations down below in the YouTube comments on this video. Also, if you know anything more about the lyrics or some of the story behind what they were singing about, I'd love to hear more about that as well. Definitely looking to understand more of the background. And if you want to just come and say hello to me sometime, you can find me on Patreon, or you can learn more about singing or music in general at thecharismaticvoice.com. Thanks, and see you soon.